Hello everyone, it's that time of the year, it's the end of the year. It's that time where we look back on everything that happened. And in terms of games, 2023 is one of the best in a while, but at the same time, one of the worst year for gaming. Both are actually true. We got an amazing collection of great games, AAA, AA, indie, and many of us ended up not even having enough time to play all the games we wanted to play. But on the contrary, many games released with performance issues. We had scam games, unfinished buggy messes, games that were released that were a shell of what's promised. We also saw the greed of some of these companies, with the worst practices yet. The multiple editions, the in-game purchase for a full price game, release and fix it later trend, pay more for early access are some of the major ones. Again, let me bring the focus more towards the point of the video, like me going through some of the best games I have played in 2023. So let me start with the genre I don't play that often, the horror genre. I usually tend to watch it rather than playing. Still, I played 3 horror games this year, and I gotta say, all of them were bangers. So let's get into it. I haven't played the original, so this was a fresh experience for me. The isolated and the stranded setting our character was being put in made me play at high alert throughout my entire playthrough. The visual quality, the ambience, the feeling of isolation and the panic it causes, the zero gravity sections, the enemy designs, the high variety of viable weapons were some of the biggest highlights for me. The mission structure can feel a little bit repetitive. Aside from that, it's a great horror experience.
Cuidado! The ones with chainsaws are no joke! Believe me, I know!
Again, I haven't played the original of this one, so I can't compare this with the original and all. What I can still say though is that this is currently my favorite Resident Evil game. Resident Evil 2 and 7 were my favorite, but 4 gave an experience which combined the strength of 2 and 7, and this solidified Resident Evil 4 as my favorite. Just having kick and parry in combat made the combat so much better. The only problem I had with this game was the final boss. It was not a good fight. Everything else was perfection. I had so much fun. The most fun I had in a horror game for sure. The third one I will mention at the end of the video, where I discuss my top 3 games. So without wasting time, let's get into the most promising and ever-growing category, the indie games. In a time where AAA games ends up disappointing by making scummier money-making decisions than putting passion forward, these indie games are what keeps that element alive. There was a lot of great indies this year too. Out of them, I want to focus on some of my favorites. This was the most relaxing game of the year for me. It's a short experience, a really calming, yet it's not mindless. The climbing needs some getting used to, and after that it flows really well. The art design and the music really enhances and contributes to the overall experience. I recommend you play this when you want to play a relaxing game. Sea of Stars was enjoyable. Otherwise I wouldn't spend 40+ hours on it. Though I am slightly disappointed with the game. Like, this game is good. I feel like it could have been better. There was potential for it to be even something more. But this is not the video for that. So let's focus on why it's here in this video. The art design of the world, the character designs, the animations for all, and even the attacks, the world they gave us to play in, the music especially, and also the combat had more engagement than like the normal turn-based games. Like, we can block and also reflect and even double attack based on perfecting the timings, which helps us keep more focused. The overall story is not that great, but there are some specific parts or like arcs in the story where I had so much fun and investment. and that's why it's here. Bramble is the one game from this list I actually recommend everyone to play. It's an awesome experience. I don't want to explain what type of game this is, but as you can see from the gameplay, it can be peaceful and sometimes it can change. The visuals, especially the way it is presented, the music and the ambience is successfully created, and the short story they are trying to tell are all the highlights. I don't usually like puzzles in games. The reason for that is most of the time these puzzles are just used for padding out the game, like slow it down. When that is the main reason for it, I end up hating it. But Cocoon is a puzzle game throughout. The main thing the game offers are in the form of puzzles. Here I actually loved it because all of these are actually well made and they feel creative than being an artificial padding. The focus of the game are the puzzles and they are of high quality. The game even has some really fun memorable boss battles with just movement and a single action button for gameplay. Bosses still being this good is actually incredible. I'm not sure how to do it, but I am going to focus on all the Souls-likes and the action games together. I know it's better to separate these categories, but there are some games in here that can be called as an action game, but also as Souls-like. So let's just focus on both of these genres together. This is a good Souls-like experience if you are more into shooters than melee combat. All the archetypes and classes are different and all of them are worth trying. The weapons, including the melee ones, are really well designed. I mean, there are a few obvious strong ones, but a lot more fun ones, so you choose what you want. The bosses were enjoyable. The procedurally generated worlds provide more randomness and replayability. It's a really fun game and it's even more fun with co-op. The performance was horrible though. Another game that was held back by being released early, it's just EA. Almost every EA game that was released this year had performance issues at launch. I will say it's an amazing game, but don't get it for the full price, just to set an example. Aside from that, it's a really enjoyable game. Well worth the wait sequel. The first game actually brought me into the Star Wars universe, and the sequel, Jedi Survivor, is currently my favorite Star Wars project. This sequel improved on almost every aspect of the game. The new quality of life changes, the new Jedi abilities, the stance-based combat, more customization, you can actually play to get it. From Software doesn't seem to miss, and Armored Core 6 is another proof of that. This was my entry to the game series, and it did not disappoint. High-octane, fast-paced combat, spectacle boss fights, the variety in customization, the designs of the mechs, the scale of the world, top-notch work again from Software. The only problem I can say is that once you find an OP build, the game can get a little too easy. But I feel like that's also the point of the game. Comparing it to like a Souls-like game is not the right thing to do. I gotta be honest, this was a surprise. I mean, I had expectations, but this one went way beyond that. I was never expecting this to be my favorite Souls-like of the year. And it is one of the best non-From Software Souls-like game for me. It has the traditional Souls-like elements transformed well enough and used well. The switch from dark fantasy to a steampunk setting with the gimmick of Pinocchio, that gimmick actually mattered in the game. The combat is more parry focused, but you can actually manage with dodge too. And the obvious thing we all need to know, the bosses. They are also super fun, except for a few gang ones. And I have to compliment the art design and all the newer features they introduced to this genre. This is the Souls-like. If you are a Souls-like fan, it's a must-try. Now that I went through all the major genres of the games I've played, I think it's time I focus on my top 3 games of 2023. So let's get into my number 3. Alan Wake 2 is a special game. In a time where there are many options, where you can make a safer game just by following a trend and guarantee at least some amount of money. But here they took some risk and made the game they wanted to make. Alan Wake 2 is a passion project, and when you play it, you will actually experience it. If you are a horror fan, a fan of creative narratives, this is a definite must play. This game was a blast. I had so much fun. Hi-Fi Rush is an incredible, passion-filled, made with love game. I even ended up loving the story and the characters. And obviously 808 is another reason I think this game needs more attention. It's a rhythm-based game. The whole game, everything in the game is designed to work with the beat. The combat is fun and satisfying. The music is obviously great. And the overall vibe of the game is something I personally really enjoy. And there are some spectacular segments in the game that is so fun to play through. And we even have amazing boss battles. At least give it some more exposure than giving it all to the empty planet is also fun, the game. Hi-Fi Rush is there, and it's actually a good, richly filled and entertaining game. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Beyond the campsite, the city waits in uneasy silence, one sleep away.
Yeah, it was obvious. I mean, they made something special. I already said it in my review. You buy the game, you get the full experience. BG3 is a monumental achievement in not just the CRPG genre, but in the RPG genre. It sets a standard for all the future games to get inspired from. Character animation, the freedom it provides, the music, the visuals, the combat itself once you get into it, the character creation, the builds possible, the amount of content it provides, the replayability, and so on. Like, there is so much in this game I want to praise, but I want to keep it short also. That actually wraps up my video. Anyway, if you like this, consider giving it a like and maybe even subscribing. Like, it's free.